Final update, at a family meeting, Mom said, "Your sister just bought an expensive apartment. You can't do it." So I smiled and replied, "I did it 2 years ago, none of you ever asked." They demanded a housewarming party, and I answered. They exchanged uncomfortable glances. "That's different," Mom said. Melissa needed more attention. She was more sensitive. And now she needs more money, and suddenly I'm family again? I shook my head. You didn't consider me family when you missed my high school graduation, or when you forgot my college commencement, or any of the dozen birthdays and holidays I spent alone. You were being ridiculous, Dad snapped. We're your parents. Biologically, yes. But you stopped acting like parents years ago. I stood, signaling the end of our meeting. I have work to do. Mom's expression hardened. If you turn your back on us now, you'll regret it. Family is all you have in the end. I have friends who've been more family to me than you ever were. I pressed the intercom. Nancy, please show my visitors out. As they left, Dad turned back. You were making a terrible mistake, Donna. This isn't over. The door closed behind them, and I sank back into my chair, emotions swirling. Part of me wanted to cry, but a stronger part felt relieved, like I'd finally excised something toxic from my life. I threw myself into work over the next few weeks, extending my hours and taking on additional projects. If my colleagues noticed any change in my behavior, they were professional enough not to mention it. I declined invitations for after-work drinks and weekend brunches, preferring the solitude of my apartment or the distraction of long runs along the riverfront. Then, almost a month after the confrontation at my office, my phone rang with an unfamiliar number. Hello, I answered cautiously. Donna, it's Aunt Carol. I relaxed slightly. Aunt Carol had always been the least judgmental of my relatives, though we'd never been particularly close. Hey, Aunt Carol. What's up? I thought you should know what's happening, she said, her voice lowered as if she were afraid of being overheard. Your parents are telling everyone that you're a terrible person. They're saying you refuse to help your sister, even though you're swimming in money. And now they're struggling to make her mortgage payments. I laughed dryly. Let me guess. Mom's taken extra shifts, and Dad's working weekends? Exactly. How did you know? Because that's the narrative they want, poor, hardworking parents sacrificing everything for their struggling daughter, while the selfish wealthy one refuses to help. Aunt Carol hesitated. So, is it true about not helping them? Yes, it's true. I'm not paying my sister's mortgage. Can I ask why? I sighed, pacing my living room. Aunt Carol, do you remember my high school graduation? Of course. You were valedictorian. Your speech was lovely. My parents weren't there. They went to Melissa's dance recital instead. They didn't come to my college graduation either, or when I got my first promotion. Or my second. They didn't even know I'd been made financial director until I told them at that dinner. I paused, my throat tight. And now suddenly they're interested in my life, only because they think I can solve their problems. The line was quiet for a moment. I didn't realize, Aunt Carol finally said. I knew Melissa got more attention, but I didn't know it was that bad. I just thought you should know what they're saying. Thanks for the heads up. I appreciate it. After hanging up, I wandered to my balcony and looked out at the city skyline. Was I being cold-hearted? Maybe. But years of emotional neglect had taught me to protect myself. My parents had made their choice long ago, repeatedly choosing Melissa over me. Now they could live with the consequences. The next morning, I made a decision. Opening my laptop, I booked a 3-week vacation to Europe, something I'd been putting off for too long. Paris. Rome. Barcelona. I'd visit museums, eat at amazing restaurants, and not think about family drama at all. As I finalized the bookings, my phone lit up with a text from my mother. Your sister got fired yesterday. Now she definitely can't make her mortgage payments. If you don't help, she'll lose her apartment. Is that what you want? I stared at the message, shaking my head at the manipulation. I typed back. What I want is for you all to handle your own problems like adults. I'm going on vacation for 3 weeks. Please don't contact me again. I blocked her number before she could respond, then did the same with my father's and Melissa's. It was drastic, but necessary. I couldn't move forward if I kept getting pulled back into their drama. The day before my flight, I had lunch with my closest friend, Tara. We'd met in college, and she'd been my rock through every career milestone and personal crisis. So, you're really cutting them off? She asked as we settled into our favorite bistro. I already have, I replied, spreading my napkin on my lap. I blocked their numbers, and I told security at work not to let them in again. Well, she stirred her iced tea thoughtfully, are you okay with that? They're still your family. Are they, though? I looked out the window. Family is supposed to support you, care about your achievements, show up when it matters. They've never done any of that. The next day, as I boarded my flight to Paris, I felt lighter than I had in years. The seat next to me was empty, a small luxury on a long flight. I settled in, opened my book, and prepared for takeoff. Just as the flight attendants were closing the doors, my phone pinged with an email notification. It was from an unfamiliar address, but the subject line read, from Dad. I hesitated, then opened it. Greater than Donna, your mother and I are disappointed in your childish behavior. Blocking our numbers. Refusing to discuss family matters. This isn't how we raised you. Melissa is struggling. And as her sister, you have a responsibility to help. We've had to dip into our retirement savings to cover her mortgage this month. Is this really the daughter we raised? A selfish woman who puts luxury vacations above family needs? Think about your actions while you're gallivanting around Europe. I deleted the email without responding, then put my phone in airplane mode. The engines roared to life, and soon we were climbing above the clouds. Below me, the city grew smaller and smaller, until it was just a speck, and then nothing at all. For 3 weeks, I immersed myself in art, history, and culture. I walked the streets of Paris at dawn, watched the sunset from a Barcelona beach, and ate gelato by the Trevi fountain. I took hundreds of photos, but shared none on social media where my family might see them. These moments were for me alone. On my last night abroad, sitting at a small cafe in Rome, I realized something. I wasn't angry anymore. The hurt was still there, a dull ache beneath my ribs, but the burning resentment had faded. My parents and Melissa had made their choices. And I had made mine. We were all living with the consequences. When I returned home, tanned and refreshed, my apartment felt even more like a sanctuary. On my kitchen counter was a stack of mail, bills, magazines, and a postcard from Tara, who'd gone to Seattle for a conference. Nothing for my family. I unpacked, ordered takeout, and settled onto my balcony with a glass of wine. I was free, not just financially, but emotionally. The path ahead was mine alone to choose, unburdened by expectations and old wounds. I raised my glass to the night sky and smiled.